Welcome to this explainer. Today we're stepping completely out of the ordinary and venturing into the shadows of a beautifully tragic myth. We're going to explore a love story that literally bridges the gap between the living and the dead. It's the legend of Varen and Mira, a tale that really forces us to examine the very nature of existence, duty, and sacrifice. So settle in because we are diving right into the Ghost King's Choice.
I'm going to ruin myself for you. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. It's quiet, it's absolute, and it just hums with this dangerous intensity. That's not just your standard romantic declaration. It's a promise of mutual destruction. Seriously, what kind of being makes a vow like that? And what are the profound romantic stakes that would push someone to the absolute edge of their own existence? Let's find out. To really understand the magnitude of that quote, we need to get into part one, the lifeless king. Because to tell this story right, we have to start in the dark. Imagine the stark contrast of these two realms. The kingdom of Umbreth doesn't sit on a normal map. It basically hangs beneath it, kind of in the space between heartbeats. The skies there are locked in this perpetual twilight. The rivers run completely black and silent, and there's this harsh throne carved entirely from the bones of kings who tried to escape it. That's Varen's domain. Now contrast that with the human world. It is everything Umbreth isn't. It's bathed in golden sunlight, filled with messy, unpredictable noise, and just vibrating with living warmth. The divide between our two protagonists could not possibly be deeper. And ruling over that freezing, silent realm is King Varen. Here's the thing about Varen. He wasn't born. He was made. He was literally stitched together from the last breaths of 1,000 nameless dead warriors. His crown is made of antler and iron, and get this, his cloak is spun from actual fog. But the most important thing to know is that his entire existence is bound by the first law of Umbreth. The dead do not feel, and the dead do not want. That is his absolute, inescapable baseline. To put that into perspective, the sheer weight of his existence comes down to 300 years. 3 centuries. For 300 years, Varen sat on that throne of bones. His voice could literally stop a storm, but he only ever used it to dictate cold law. Imagine 300 years without feeling a single breeze, without wanting a single thing, just an endless, stretching numbness. But you know, an existence built entirely on numbness is actually incredibly fragile. And that brings us to our inciting incident, part 2, the girl with the lantern. Enter Mira. She's not a warrior, she's not a queen. She is just wonderfully, stubbornly human. We see her walking barefoot through the woods at dusk, carrying a simple clay lantern in one hand and a basket of vibrant marigolds in the other. She's actually on her way to mourn her brother at a village shrine. She's fragile, she's deep in grief, but man, she is just so alive. The legend goes that she stumbled over a root and let out the soft, startled laugh. And that single, sudden sound of life, it hit the Ghost King, who was watching from behind the veil like a blade straight through ice. And Varen? He doesn't look away. For 7 days, he just watches her. Day 1, he sees her singing to the crops. By day 3, he's watching her quietly leave bread out for stray dogs. Day 5, she's weeping at the shrine, wiping her face and just stubbornly carrying on. And this hollow spot in Varen's chest, right where a heart should be, starts to ache. Finally, on the 7th day, the pressure is just too much. He completely shatters the first law of Umbreth. He steps right through the veil, getting totally hit by the loud, bright, burning cold of the living world, all just to leave a single, unwilting marigold where she'll find it. And when she smiles at that gift, it pretty much unmakes him. That one smile completely alters the trajectory of both realms. Which leads us to part 3, defying the first spirits. A massive confrontation is brewing in the underworld. So Varen summons his parents, the first spirits. These are ancient beings made of wind and memory, manifesting as shifting shadows with eyes like literal holes cut into the night. And they immediately smell the living world all over him. His father reminds him of the law. They do not touch, they do not want, they just rule. And Varen looks at them and responds with 3 heavy, earth-shattering words. I want her. To the ancient spirits, this is absolute madness. They warn him that she is breath and he is shadow, and to want her is to invite ruin. And this is Varen's phenomenal reply, then let me fade. Just
Think about the existential weight of that for a second. He is consciously, actively rejecting the safety of his immortal numbness. He tells them he wants to hear her laugh without hiding behind a tree. He wants to actually hand her flowers himself. He's explicitly choosing vulnerability, saying, I want to live even if it kills me.
His father coldly shoots back that, as the king of the dead, he doesn't get to choose the way mortals do. Which really begs the question, can a king of the dead truly choose? Well, Varian answers that by doing the unthinkable. He says, then I'm not your king anymore. And he takes off his crown. He drops it right onto the black stone floor, fracturing those ancient laws with a sound like the world cracking. Stripped of his crown, but still very much burdened by his ghostly nature, Varian returns to the Vale. This kicks off part 4, a deadly courtship. Since he's a ghost, he kind of has to court her from the shadows. He starts super gently, just appearing in her dreams as mist, sitting with her, listening to her talk about her lonely nights. In the waking world, he steps it up to leaving full garlands of marigolds on her windowsill. And then, when real danger shows up, wolves attacking her flock, he steps right between them. He can't kill them, but he breathes out a cold so deep and absolute that frost actually clings to the wolves' fur and sends them packing. He protects her, but he's so careful not to terrify her. It's right after this that Mira finally sees him in the moonlight. And she doesn't scream, she bravely stands her ground, visibly shaking, and asks if he's going to hurt her. He gives her that chilling promise we talked about at the very beginning, that he will ruin himself for her. And when this fragile, incredibly stubborn human woman asks for his name, he gives this totally poignant response. Viron, king of nothing you'd want to rule. But as beautiful as their quiet courtship is, they can't escape the brutal laws of their universe. This brings us to the emotional core of our story. Part 5, choosing to live. The first spirits visit Varen with a really grim warning and some cruel ancient math. Because he's breaking the rules of existence, he is literally fading away. Check this out. If he touches her, he loses a year of existence. A single kiss, that'll cost him a decade. And to fully love her, like to hold her and be held, means he will be unmade entirely. There is no loophole here, folks. Loving a mortal will systematically erase him from existence. But Varian accepts the math. On this rainy night, under a banyan tree, looking way more like mist than a man, he confesses everything to Mira. He tells her point blank that he's dying because he chose her. But Mira, who is fiercely alive and knows grief all too well, just steps closer into the rain. She demands the right to choose too. He warns her about his doomed fate, and she hits him with this incredible perspective. She says, everything ends. My brother ended, the seasons end, but while they're here, we love them anyway. Wow. When their fingers finally brush, there is an overwhelming sensory rush. Mira feels the touch of the grave right away, the biting cold of winter, a feeling like deep grief, like the bottom of a dark well. But underneath all that death, there's the spark of life. She feels the very last ember of his warmth, which he's freely giving just to her. And as she whispers, I choose you too, Varen gasps. For the first time in 300 long years, he feels completely, undeniably alive. But Varen doesn't actually turn to dust that night. The first spirits witness this incredible sacrifice, a king literally giving up his soul for love. And they do something unprecedented. They actually bend the ancient law. They grant them what's called the after. It's this compromised, bittersweet existence. Varen becomes something between a ghost and a living being. He gets to walk the human world for a few hours each day at high moon. He goes back to rule Umbreth, but now with a kind heart, remembering what it means to be warm. But the tragedy is still there. Mira grows older, while Varen doesn't. They just sit together beneath that banyan tree, one counting heartbeats, the other counting moons. Varen had eternal security, infinite power, and absolute safety from any kind of pain. And he traded the whole shebang, his crown, his immortality, the fundamental laws of his universe, just to feel the warmth of a mortal touch, knowing full well it would eventually end. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question to ponder. In your own life, what would you be willing to sacrifice to truly feel alive?